I feel very fortunate that I can sit here at this very moment and see the beauty of this terrain around us, and it's not covered with houses or apartments and subdivisions. I see that, and then if I turn to my left and look across the highway, I see a different story altogether. That's necessary, I understand, because people have to have somewhere to live, but I hope that we can keep it under control and not let it be covered with commercial houses and that sort of thing. I don't think there's enough money in the whole world for me to want to give this up, what I see around me right now. And I hope that it stays this way forever. When I was growing up, the stores on Main Street, they're still there today. Those 2 blocks on Main Street and in the square, we've got to keep them just like they are. I am the result of 2 things, 2 eras in our history, the Great Depression and World War II. All my values come from those 2 eras in our history. Growing up and losing my daddy when I was 12 years old, and that was 1937, right in the middle of the Great Depression, and how we were able to survive by pretty much living off the land. In fact, we didn't know, I didn't know what the word depression meant. I was just having too much fun because we were going out rabbit hunting every day and squirrel hunting and fishing and doing something like that every day and bringing it home to mama, and that was food that we were gathering, not knowing that. So I grew up during that depression when I think maybe the first job I had, I got $2 a week, and I felt really hurt about it because they took 2 cents out for something called Social Security back then. So I didn't get but $1.98, and I didn't think that was quite right. I was 2 cents short. So that was my first dealing with the economy, about $1.98 and giving up 2 cents. And that got me started off. And so I've just grown up from then and gotten into football coaching and school teaching and all those sorts of things. And then the camps is an outgrowth of that because I had such a good time growing up in that atmosphere. Now I like to get kids and get them to do that. Some of them don't even know where worms come from. So we just dig some worms and let them find the worms and that sort of thing. So it's just been a fun time for me to do that. Well, during World War II, I was in the infantry. We were foot soldiers and landed in Le Havre, France, and we fought across France, north of Paris, and into Germany and to Nuremberg. I can go through all of them. And as the war progressed and we began to take more of Germany away, it was pretty obvious that we're winning the war. And then we go south, my division, I was in the 42nd Infantry Division. We went south and towards Munich in Bavaria. And, but my particular platoon didn't go into Munich. We went just a few miles away from Munich to a little place called Dachau, D-A-C-H-A-U. Pretty little village, but we were not there for the village. We go to a place in Dachau that has huge walls around it, and we don't know what it is. There was a terrible smell. So we enter the camp, not knowing again what we have, and there are lots of warehouses there. And I remember I'm a foot soldier, and for the first time I began to see bodies, human beings, laying around dead on the street, around the buildings, and you step over those people and we work our way through there. We don't know what we've got until we get to a second wall. Inside the big wall, it's not as high, it's a smaller wall, it has a water moat around it, barbed wire on top of the fence. And then we work our way to, I remember, to our left where I was, to the gates that go into the camp itself. And there on the other side of the barbed wire fence was what I describe as a sea of faces. And they all appear to be dead, but yet they were alive. These pitiful people, arms and legs no bigger than a broomstick, and they were starving to death. And so we didn't know who they were or what they were, and they were staring at us at first. They didn't know who we were either. And so once we opened the gates and let them out, they began to scream and yell and hug you, and some of them were crawling on their hands and knees, couldn't walk. And someone yelled out, "Don't let them kiss you on the mouth." I didn't understand it when that happened, but I did the next day because they took us out into a big field nearby, cold, damp day, took all of our uniforms, underwear and all, and burned them. Then they took us over and shaved all the hair off of our bodies, and we walked between 2 trucks and they sprayed us from both sides with DDT because some of those prisoners had typhus fever, which is carried by a flea off of a rat. We didn't know what we had done until a few days later that we had liberated Dachau concentration camp, not knowing what we were doing. That was my experience there. It is something that I can still see them, and I've been back to the camp once, and as soon as I got to the camp, I could smell that camp. Before I took another step, I said, I know where I am. It was really emotional for me to be there that day, to go back into that camp after all the 40 years. I could still smell Dachau. After all those years, 40 years later, and the man that got me to talk found me I was teaching at Brentwood Academy, and he had been to the Holocaust Commission or something in Nashville and found out about a soldier that was at the camp, and he came out to see me. And when I saw him, I broke down. Just a minute. I broke down. I recognized him, and he recognized me. We held each other, and we cried together because he knew what I knew, and I knew what he knew. That's 40 years later. That was Oleg Rudenko. He's from the Ukraine. I can remember before Cool Spring was built, it was a wonderful spring out there, and I don't know whether I can even find it now or not, but we stopped out there. I believe Clyde Lynch owned the land there where it had a wonderful spring, and we stopped and get a drink of water. Now cars, maybe in a day's time, probably 10,000 cars pass right by. Don't even know that spring's there. That's out in Cool Spring. So it has really, really changed now. So I miss those days because you either walking where you're going, or you drive so far and then get out and walk the rest of the way to do your shopping and so on. But you don't see people do that any longer. We used to do this. People used to do this. They say, if they said, "Well, I don't have any way to go," and you just always answer them, "Well, walking is not crowded." So it made sense then. We can walk, and that's the way we do it. Just walk where you're going.